Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Conversations in Pop Culture, where I have with me cosplayer Kazan Nikki. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, now I'm very excited because there's a lot to talk about, and you've been cosplaying for a while at this point, about 10 years. And we're going to get into some of your cosplays and dive into that in a minute or two here. But I am curious how you initially got into cosplay.
Well, it's actually kind of unusual. I think a lot of cosplayers get into cosplay, they just go to their first Comic Con and they're like, oh my gosh, this is fun, and I'm going to put on a costume kind of thing. How I got into it was very unusual. About 10 years ago, somebody asked me if I would join a all-female pirate crew in Long Beach. And I thought, okay, well that might be fun. You know, what's entailed in it? We have a captain, all females. We would go to several events. Sometimes we get paid to go to parties and entertain. We had to, learn pirate songs. We had to be in character. We were all, pirate girls. My name was Ambrosia because we all had these, different names. And so I thought, okay, I'll do this for a while, and I did, and actually had a lot of fun with it. But I mean, after several pirate events, I kind of thought, well, I'm always a pirate. I'm going to do something else. What can I do at these pirate events that I would still fit in? But I'm tired of dressing as a pirate. I want to do something else. So I kind of went as an enemy of the pirates, and I showed up. I didn't tell anybody, and I showed up as Princess Tiger Lily. And so the captain is like, Nikki, what are you doing? And I go, I just want to be something other than a pirate today. So, I went as Princess Tiger Lily because we did have a Tinkerbell, and I had a lot of fun. And I thought, you know what? This is really a blast. I think there's a lot more to this. And then I learned about the Comic Cons and stuff like that. And I just got hooked. I went to my first Comic Con, and it was like a playground for me. There was everybody. I mean, every character that I've always loved was there. And I thought, why didn't I do this before? And so from then on, it was just crazy. But that's how I got into cosplay.
So, let's talk about that Tiger Lily cosplay because that's technically your first one going beyond the pirates. So, what was that like really building that out and really putting it together and piecing it together? And I don't know if it was, pieced together or if it was sewn or what's the entire story of how it was built?
Well, I looked at pictures of, what Tiger really, looked like, the original Peter Pan. And I had somebody make the costume for me. And I knew exactly what I wanted it to look like. I knew the boots that I wanted to wear with the fringe and everything. And, I went a little shorter on the Tiger Lily costume, than what Tiger Lily really wears, and it just worked. And I mean, there was Captain Hooks at these pirate events, and I mean, I would just turn around and steal Captain Hook's hook, and I would just, run around with the hook and say, I got his hook. But it was fun. I mean, I was very detailed with the cosplay right from the beginning and that's the way I pretty much always have been. I want things to be just right. As far as, the character itself, and sometimes I just put my own spin on it, but I knew exactly what I wanted, and I just put it together, and I ended up doing it a few times. I didn't do it just the one time. It was fun.
Yeah, and even to go out as Tiger Lily, what was it like to play Tiger Lily? Because that's the other part of cosplay that I think people don't understand. And you said that you were taking Captain Hook's hook and having a good time, and you were obviously with pirates and Peter Pan and all that stuff. So what was that entire thing like of actually getting to embrace Tiger Lily that a lot of people know?
Well, I mean, I felt like, um, I braided my hair, and I thought that's why I picked Tiger Lily, because I could pull it off. I have the same color hair. Um, and as far as, the character, and it goes with any one of my cosplays that I do, I have to be able to connect with the character. I have to like the character. Um, and I learned early on that you don't just go and dress up as this character and then just stand there and go, oh, look, I'm Tiger Lily or I'm whatever. You have to be in character. And people love that. Well, Tiger Lily wasn't a very vocal character, if you remember from the cartoon. So, but I just did those sneaky things and just snuck up behind pirates and stuff like that, and that was really fun. But as I got into cosplay later on, I kind of accelerated on some of the characters, and I kind of got to learn to know how to get in character, because that's what people expect. When they see you, they want you to react, of the character that you're wearing.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I love when cosplayers stay in character. I love when cosplayers who do awesome villains actually refuse to allow people to take pictures purposely. And I love people when they stay in character. I'm a wrestling fan, and I'm a heels guy versus a face guy. But we're going to table that, and I want to talk a little bit more about the process, because you have a lot of cosplays, and we're going to get to the rest of your Disney stuff, I promise. But I am curious because you've done everything from Star Wars and a bunch of mashups, and then you've done some DC stuff and a few Marvel
Yep.
things as well. But I'm curious, where does the inspiration come from, and how does your creation process work?
Well, like I said, I have to like the character. Um, and it, one of my favorites, and I'll tell you right now, is Catwoman. I love Catwoman. She's one of my favorite cosplays because I like how mysterious she is. I like the villain that she is, and she's just a lot of fun. I've done both the original Catwoman, I've done the Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman. I just love Catwoman. But and I tend to lean a little more on DC characters than Marvel. Um, but I like them all. But it's to be in character, and to love the cosplay is just so important. I've done Catwoman so much. People have seen me, and I actually got asked to go to a VIP event at the Hollywood Museum. They did a whole Batman thing. They had the Batmobile there. They had a whole display, and Burt Ward was being honored there. And they asked me to present him with a shirt dressed as, Catwoman. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be so much fun. And Lee Merriweather was there, and I got to meet her. I've already met Julie Newmar twice before that, so I mean, I just love Catwoman. So it was awesome. I mean, there was Burt Ward, and I got to meet his wife. She's really sweet, and I follow them on Facebook now. But yeah, I mean, Catwoman is probably one of my favorite. Cosplays that I've done. Like I said, I'm very particular when it comes to the costumes. So, I piece together a lot of the costumes. I do everything from hand sew. My Catwoman, I was very particular. I actually found somebody that made the original ears, because when you get a costume, it'll come with ears, and it'll come with the mask, but they weren't screen accurate to me. So it's like, I'll order the costume, I'll order a custom made costume, and if they come with the ears, whatever, I don't like them, I just throw them away, and I get the right ears, or the right mask, or the right props, or I mean, I'm just kind of particular about that, and I've always kind of stayed with that.
Yeah, and to even talk about that, because there's a variety of different cosplayers out there. There's people who commission things and then basically commission pieces of it and put it together and maybe sew a piece of it together. There's people who, will build an entire costume, but then I was speaking to somebody, DJ Croft, and what he did is that he built a good chunk of it, but he didn't want to build the mask of one of his cosplays because he
Yep.
just is not good at that, or he wanted to have somebody assemble it and then he was going to modify it. And so, what is that like for you in piecing things together and then making sure that it fits? Because it presents a whole bunch of challenges. Because when you're ordering something versus making it yourself, it's obviously there's the question: is it going to fit? Is it large enough? Is it small enough? Is it tight enough? And then on top of that, even going further, because you just said that basically you threw out what it came with the years and then you had somebody go out and build it and do it right,
Yep.
or do it more to character, I think is a better way to
Yeah.
put it. So what is that like, and then even balancing the costs with all of that?
I mean, I'm not going to lie, it can get expensive when you want to do something right and you have to pay somebody. I mean, I sew. I'll hand sew, but I don't like I'm not good at alterations, but I know exactly how I want something to fit. And I'll have somebody perfectly tailor it to fit me. But when it comes to the extra accessories and stuff, like I have made, like one of my favorite cosplays that I've done is a mashup of a stormtrooper and Cheshire Cat. That's one of my favorite. And I mean, the belt had to be made, and the belt had to look like a stormtrooper. So, I mean, I had these, blocks underneath, the material, and they had to look like a stormtrooper belt. And it was all purple. And I, did the choker to make it look like, or the neck piece to make it look like, everything that I had looked either Cheshire Cat or stormtrooper. But it's like the ears. I did not want to attempt to make the ears because I remember trying to make Ewok ears one time and it was a total fail. And so when I came to the Cheshire Cat ears, I found somebody on Etsy, and they made them and they were absolutely perfect. But I will piece out, I will spend the money and I will piece out the pieces that I can't do because I want them to be right. But I mean, I'm the first one to admit I cannot make everything. I mean, I go everywhere. I mean, I'm at Hobby Lobby, Joann's Fabrics, and Michael's, and I even go to the secondhand store and I find stuff. But if I can't put it together, I'm not too proud. And when I see people at Comic Cons and I see them, like I said, they just bought the costume, they got the accessories and stuff. Good for them. That works for them. I think it's awesome because I love seeing new cosplayers come out because it's great for everybody to have a good time. But it doesn't matter if it's not screen accurate for everybody. But and that's how I've gotten, especially, is it's been 10 years. At first I was, like, oh my gosh, what did I do? You look back and you're like, really? Did you really wear that?
And to even go further with that, because obviously you're in Hobby Lobby and you're in all these different places trying to buy things and buying materials, and materials get expensive in cosplay. And it adds up really quickly and it's complicated by definition. And I am not a cosplayer, but I just know how expensive things get. So, how do you balance the costs between certain materials and picking things up? And I know that buying in bulk is very efficient sometimes, but also things do add up again, and then certain things just get out of control. And obviously, it's a gigantic balancing act in many ways.
It is. Well, I always thought I kind of saw the big picture when I first got started, and I thought, you know what? If I if I do this long enough, and if I buy enough, I will be able to interchange some of the pieces. And I have, you know, um, like the corsets, I've been able to, recover corsets or, um, you know, I cannot begin to tell you how many pairs of footwear I have bought, because that's another thing I'm particular about. It's like, you know what? If it's a boot that goes up to the knee, it's got to be that, you know. And my Ewok boots, they have to be furry because I'm an Ewok, and so I mean, you know, my poor husband, he's like, "Where does all your money go?" And I was like, well, let's see. I've, you know, had to buy this. I had to buy this. I mean, I buy stuff on eBay, Etsy, Amazon, you name it. But I really try to, you know, watch what I buy, because a lot of times, I mean, and I've learned, you know, I spent more money than I should have. And I thought, you know what? And by the time I get it, I thought, I could have made this. I mean, I have all the materials as far as, you know, the tools, the paint. I have so much paint and thread and glue gun and this and that. And I thought I could have easily made that myself. So I kind of learned what I can do, what I can't do, but I'm always trying to save money. And I always do, you know, comparison. I mean, just to see where I can get it the cheapest. But, you know, sometimes it's kind of hard. You have to have somebody else make it, or you make it yourself. But yeah, just do the best you can.
Yeah, that's a lot of cosplayers and what has to happen with them. But we're going to table all this because I definitely want to get into talking about Star Wars. There's a lot of corsets that are involved in your Star Wars cosplays, and just throwing it out there, everybody. And I figured we would start with the baddest of them all, which is Vader and Darth Vader. Because I know you did a Darth Vader, and it's interesting. And so I'm just curious how this one came about, because it's the helmet, you got the lightsaber, and it's also very feminine, for lack of a better word, where it's not your traditional anticipated Darth Vader out there.
And I have the plate, and it's a sexy Darth Vader, but it's a bunny. It's a Playboy bunny mixed with Darth Vader. So that one I was actually supposed to wear at WonderCon at Easter this last year, but because of COVID, I didn't get to wear it. So, but then I just did a fun little Vader, you know, I had a Vader shirt, I had my lightsaber, and I just kind of took a couple pictures of that, and yeah, people really love that one too. But I've always loved Star Wars for as long as I can remember. And, I mean, let's just say, you know, there's no secret. I'm an older cosplayer, so I've been around a long time. I saw Star Wars when it first came out in '77, and I fell in love with it. I mean, I just left the drive-in theater. Okay, that shows you how old I am. Left the drive-in theater thinking, oh my gosh, that was the most amazing. And I mean, I just kept talking about it. My girlfriends are like, yeah, so, you know, but I mean, I loved it. So all these years later, still love it. And if I'm going to cosplay any Star Wars characters, why not do Darth Vader himself? I know I'm a female. I don't care. I'll do gender bender. I have done a lot of gender bender cosplays because I like the characters. And why stop? I mean, you see me, I do a lot of, you know, kind of sexy, feminine, but I will take the male characters and I'll just put my own spin on them. And I don't, I mean, Marty McFly, I love Back to the Future. I've done Marty McFly. I've done Boba Fett. One of my funner cosplays that when you talk about being in character, I've done Austin Powers, but they call me Austina Powers. And
We're going to
and
talk
that
about
one
all
was
that, I promise.
okay.
So,
But
so,
I
so
saw
one
it.
of the things that I really liked about this Vader, and you mentioned it, is that there's a lot of really cool photos with it. And I think that's where it really shines, is that there's all these cool photos that really sort of capture what Darth Vader is, but also capture that sexy element of what you've done with it. And so that's why I want to speak about this, because I think it's really unique when we're taking a character who is very much a dictator type authoritative character and is the face of Star Wars. By definition, Vader is. And then you have your spin on it. And so, how did all that come about? Because I love these photos that were on Instagram, and I'm sure there's several more elsewhere. And I'm sure that there's some other stuff elsewhere too, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, we talked about saving money. So, I already said I like Darth Vader. My son had a Darth Vader helmet. And I thought, you know what? I've got these shiny little booty shorts. I've got this Vader shirt. I have the lightsaber. And I'm just going to take some photos and see where they go, because I mean, if guys can do Vader, I think girls can do Vader, and I mean, guys really like a female Vader. When you do it right, and you kind of put a real feminine spin on it, I mean, people kind of go, oh my gosh, that's a really cute Darth Vader. And I mean, it's just fun to do. I mean, I have the thigh high. I think I wore thigh high black leather lace up boots. It's not the clunky boots that Anakin wears. Let's just put on the thigh high sexy ones, lace those suckers up. Yeah, I actually did a kind of Disney bound Vader with some of that at Disney one day, but it was very toned down. I mean, it wasn't the black shiny booty shorts. It was definitely black slacks, but it was kind of fun. But yeah, there's nothing better to me than to put a little feminine spin on a good, like, he's like the number one villain in my opinion.
And to even go beyond Vader, because you've done other feminine spins on a lot of characters. And one of the characters that you've done a bunch of feminine spins on, but also sort of done a traditional version of, is that Stormtrooper, an armored Stormtrooper, where you did a regular version of that Stormtrooper, you did a Valentine's Day version where it's obviously like covered in blood and but looks like blood. And then you also did the dress, you know, version of the Stormtrooper, which is cool as well because that's expanding what can be done with characters. And I think all three of them are super fascinating. And so I'm curious how all three of them even came about because obviously the Armored is very traditional and that's its
Yeah.
own entity and building that. And also the concept of wearableness is a big thing right now in cosplay, and then obviously modifying it and creating a variant of the Valentine's Day version is fun because that was on Valentine's Day. And then I think the dress is the most fascinating because that doesn't really happen, and I haven't seen anything like that. And I think a lot of people haven't seen anything like that. So I'm curious about all three.
So you pretty much, nailed it on the original one, because the original one is just original. Okay. It's just, the whole suit, the helmet, and so on. So then I thought I was going to a Comic-Con in February, and it was Valentine's Day. And it was right after The Force Awakens came out, I believe. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a Valentine Stormtrooper. So I basically took the helmet, and the blood that you saw was from The Force Awakens when Finn, remember when the hand went on the helmet and the blood?
Yeah.
So that was that. And then I put hearts at the very top, but the armor pieces on my Stormtrooper were all hearts. I took a Stormtrooper gun and I attached a bow to it, and it kind of looked like a crossbow. So I was Cupid Trooper, and I had Cupid wings with the Stormtrooper with red hearts on the white wings. So I was just all over red hearts with my little crossbow. And my joke of the day was, nobody gets any romance because the Stormtrooper can't hit her target. So, but it it was fun. That was just one of those fun things. So then the other one that you're talking about with, um, it was I wore a tutu, and it was short, and I mean I had high heels on, and then I had the white corset, and I actually had a friend of mine. The top part, it was actually a brassiere. It was a white brassiere, and she blinged a stormtrooper on each of the sides for me. And that one I called the Stormtrooper Princess. It was very, very feminine. I actually built that one to wear to Emerald City Comic Con in Seattle, and it went over very well. But it was very, and you saw I had a flowing train in the back of the tutu, and it was very, very feminine. But I had my gun, but it was the corset, and it was fun. That one, and I ended up wearing that one, I think, at WonderCon as well.
And so to even talk about the dress one, because I think that's the most interesting, as I stated. Like, where did you even get the idea for that? Because that is super cool, and I love it. I love the top component of it. I love like the tutu and the gown aspect to it. And I like how it adds kind of. I don't want to say it's a gender bend, but it definitely, I feel, opens and expands what can be done with Star Wars, and in many ways represents, females coming into Star Wars. And the fact that, because for the longest time, and Star Wars cosplays have been very much dominated by men, and that's starting to change. And
Yeah.
so I feel like this is kind of one of those that's a really good example how to do it, but also make it your own.
Yes, I agree. I just kind of thought, I have all these corsets, and it kind of all started with the pirate thing because, the pirates all wear these corsets. And I thought, how can I do something with Stormtrooper? I mean, I love all white. I mean, all white just looks elegant to me, anyways. And I thought, how can I make this very pretty, very, very, very pretty, but Star Wars, so people know. And the top, I have to tell you, the top part my friend did for me was very time consuming. I paid her very handsomely to do that for me, but once I got the brassiere top part of it, you got the stormtroopers on there, and then the corset. The rest of it kind of like, you know, felt just, was easy. It's like, okay, this would look really beautiful if I did a train down the back and, a big poof down the back. And then with the tutu, it was shorter in the front, and, just putting on a shimmery pair of nylons and a spiky white shoe, carried the helmet, and people were like, oh my gosh. People actually thought when I left the Comic Con in Seattle, they thought I got married. They go, oh, congratulations, because I had this, long white train. And I'm like, no, I didn't get married. But I could shoot you and miss, but it was fun. I mean, and I think I even had the belt. I had the Stormtrooper belt right above the tutu over the corset. So, and then I found a necklace that, oh yeah, I had a satin necklace that had a stormtrooper just hanging from it, and it was very beautiful and elegant. I mean, and once again, I took a long time to find all these pieces and just to put it together. And then it starts the process. What I do is I try everything on. Of course, you're trying it on when you're making it, but once it's all put together, you try it on, and then you have somebody take a couple pictures of you, because I always have told people what you see in the mirror isn't always what the camera sees. I know that sounds strange, but, and then I would look at the picture, and that's with every cosplay, and I'm like, oh, okay, this needs to be longer or shorter or tighter or looser or whatever. And then just perfect it.
And that's really interesting because the fact that you are aware that you're trying it on and then you're sort of adding pieces onto it, and then you have people take pictures of you, and you have a camera capture, I guess, what is not seen by the human eye to improve it. I think that is absolutely fascinating and interesting because I do know that cameras capture things that we don't see. Also, a camera is not biased by many ways. I'm sure that you know
Yes.
it's true. It's very true. In which that a photo of you being taken, and this applies to anybody, is very unbiased. If you don't, you might think you look great, but then a camera takes a picture of you, and it's clear when you
Yeah.
see it, very clear. In the mirror, you can lie to yourself, and a mirror can lie to
Yes.
you too, but a picture and a camera can't. So that's how I
Yeah.
view it. And then I want to jump to another one that I think was very much well received, and this is how I kind of found you. And let's talk about Boba Fett and what's going on. Obviously, I'm on season 2 of The Mandalorian. I'm a little bit behind, so hopefully nobody's going to go ruin that for me. I'm about 4 episodes behind, but this also had a corset, the helmet, the belt, a few other things were thrown into there as well. And so, what is the story behind you doing Boba Fett and going down that route and everything that's going on? And obviously, this was pre Mandalorian, and we don't know where he's standing, but obviously, he's referenced in all of that, and his
Yeah.
entire, extended universe stuff is fascinating. But I digress on that point.
You know, I think Boba Fett was like one of the most popular way back, one of the most popular characters in Star Wars, but got probably the least amount of airtime because he was so fascinating. Everybody just loved him, and we just, you saw him fall into this pit, and you're like, oh my gosh, is that it or whatever? He never lost his popularity, never. All these years of Star Wars, and had a helmet here at the house, and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna do well. First, before I did Boba Fett, I did a Princess Fett. I did a mashup between Slave Leia and Boba Fett, and people were like, "Oh my gosh, there's two evils." But if you did your homework, you knew that Boba Fett was checking out Carrie Fisher. I think it was Return of the Jedi when she had to wear the slave the slave gear, and he was checking
It
her
gets
out.
lonely as a Mandalorian. Let's be realistic.
Yeah, I think so. Anyways, so I did that mashup first, but I ended up doing Boba Fett. And my son, who actually does R&D, he designs and he does 3D printing, and that's the way to go now with a lot of cosplay. You can make so many cool insignias and all kinds of things for your cosplay. Anyways, I told him, I says, I need the little, the little insignia that goes here, and I need the shoulder plates. And so he made all that for me. I had a corset that I ended up, you know, spray painting green, and I painted it yellow, and I spent a lot of time on that one. And then, you add some shimmery green booty shorts that I had. And I think I can't remember. Oh yeah, I made the belt. Um, Made the belt out of foam, and I just wrapped it over a regular belt that I have, but I did the whole, you know, circumference of the belt. And yeah, add a nice little boot with a little heel, and you've got a
And
feminine
so to
Boba
even
Fett.
and so to even talk about that, because Boba Fett obviously is well known in the Star Wars world. The Mandalorian has helped push it up in many ways, and people love Boba Fett, and people love the entire arc, dating back even to Episode 2 and Episode 3 to some degree, and it's one of the most popular cos. I don't know if it's one of the most popular cosplays, but it's definitely one of the most recognizables out there. And so, what was that like for you to go and be in a corset and not do the armor route? but have everything that basically says, hey, this is Boba Fett, but this is not the traditional Boba Fett, but it falls
Mm-hmm.
in, but it's also not part of like the Mandalorian group, and it's not dealing with that and all that stuff, but it's obviously going Star Wars related, and it's also adding an element of fun to Star Wars. So I think that's what this is, and it's adding an element of sexiness to Star Wars at the same time, and obviously everybody recognizes it. So what was that entire thing? How was it received? And what was it even like just being at a con in it? Because it's very different when you do fun Star Wars stuff versus more traditional. And there is a divide in the cosplay community, and you tend to be more on the fun side.
Yeah, and I think as you go to Comic Cons, you kind of saw that developing some years ago where people weren't just, your standard character. They started to do mashups. They started to put their own twist on the characters, and it started to become more acceptable, which was very welcoming for me because if I want to play these male characters, but still look feminine, um, I think people would accept it and they would be okay with it. And I think if a guy went to a con in a Boba Fett that maybe wasn't, I mean, people can be kind of judgmental. It's like, oh, you're shaking your head. They would go, oh, he didn't have those kinds of, knee pads on his pants, or his thing, or his, armor thing here wasn't right. And I actually made, my son helped me, but I painted some very odd, like a kazoo, to make it look like his little, I can't remember what it is, um, but I did the best that I could, and very, girly, and people look at you and they go, and the first thing that they say is, I would have never thought to do that, but they love it. But people absolutely love it because it's different, and people love different. And I think, like I said, everybody was, back in the day, you would, they were kind of cookie cutter kind of costumes. But now that people have gotten so creative, and it's very, welcoming to the con. I mean, I walk by the vendors and they're like going, oh, and just to get that reaction, it's like, okay, I did good. I chose well.
Yeah, I agree. In which that I think that 8 years ago is when, cause I started going to cons back in 2006, 2007, and then fast forward, I started noticing a lot of changes where mashups and things like that have become more standard, and there's still traditional sides of it. And you were saying about
Yeah.
judgmentalness in cosplay and Mandalorian groups way before the Mandalorian are probably one of the most judgmental Star Wars groups out there. And there's about 4 or 5 big groups, and they have a whole set of rules, and it's so complicated. And I know somebody,
Yes.
Kitty Quinn, and she has a pink Mando suit, and there was like a big like debate and discussion, and a big back and forth between several of the leaders of those groups whether she was able to qualify or not. And it's super fascinating, that entire thing. And it's very complicated in that regard. And then I think though that what you were saying is that everything used to be cookie cutter, and now everything is not cookie cutter, and things that are
Mm-hmm.
coming out. And I was just speaking to somebody from Australia who has like a Lord of the Rings Boba Fett, and it's like very much Game of Thrones essence. Boba Fett is it's awesome. Um, but I digress on that because I do want to talk about breaking out of the cookie cutter mold. You've done 2 mashups in Star Wars: the Cheshire Cat, which is cool because obviously you got a stormtrooper helmet that's painted like the Cheshire Cat. I'm a big Zenoscope fan, and they have their Cheshire Cat, and that's super cool. And then you also did a Chucky mashup with Jango Fett, and I feel like Jango doesn't get enough attention and enough love in the Star Wars world. So, what were both of those like, and what was the ideas? Because I think they're also super fascinating, and obviously they play to a much larger audience than just this Star Wars.
Yes. So yeah, the Chucky and the Jango Fett I did at LA Comic Con because it was at Halloween. Chucky, and people like Star Wars. So, I did that one, and that was just a fun one. It wasn't serious, and I didn't spend a whole lot of time on it, but people like go, they look at me and they just laugh. And I'm like, okay, you got it. But I I love my Cheshire Cat Stormtrooper, and like the Darth Vader helmet, my son had this, like, one of the first original Stormtrooper helmets. He got it in 8th grade. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a mashup of Stormtrooper with Cheshire Cat. And like I mentioned before, the purple belt. I had the purple and pink skirt tutu with the thigh high purple and pink stripe and the purple whatever. And I painted the helmet. And the helmet is, I think, what makes it. And I spent a lot of time wanting to make sure I got Cheshire's big yellow grin. He did it, purple. And I actually carried it because I wore Cheshire Cat ears, but I was pretty proud the way it turned out in painting. And I took a picture and I sent it to my son, and I was like, look. And he goes, is that my helmet from 8th grade? And I was like, yeah, isn't it cool? And he goes, Mom, that was like one of the very first original helmets. And I was like, oh, okay, but isn't it cute? He's like, I can't believe you did that. And I was like, wait till you see the whole thing when I put it together. And so putting that on, going to the con, I've worn it probably 3 times. And I'm telling you, it is so well liked. And every time I get press, I always get in the press when I wear that because they go, oh, okay, this is original. But, you walk by, the real Stormtroopers, and I'm like, what? I'm part of the 501st. Because I just joke around and just have fun. And they're all like, you don't belong here. Well, you can't shoot. No. I mean, I just have a good time. I really have a good time with it. But I actually did go to a Star Wars panel one time and listened in, and I learned a lot about. They really have to go through a lot of work to get their all of their costumes like certified. The steps that they have to take, and they do like partial steps. They have to get it, approved before they can move forward. I mean, I really think it's awesome that they have that. This is the kind of group that gets to go visit the hospitals, and see the kids because they want very screen accurate. And I think it's wonderful that they do that. I was actually interested. However, like you said, there isn't very many female Star Wars characters to do. I mean, you have Princess Leia, you have Rey, and others, but they have to be, exactly. But I like putting my own little spin on them. So, and I can't do that, not with the group, but it's okay. I totally get why they do it. And I take my hat off to them because it's a lot of work and it's very expensive what they have to go through, what they do.
Yeah, and you answered my next question, which was I was going to ask how it was received because obviously the Cheshire Cat even more than the Jango Fett Chucky, where I think that, as you stated, is super original and I think it's super creative. And I would have never gone that direction, or never would have, my brain would have never gone that direction, I should say. And I just think that a lot of people would really like that. And I think people like this idea of breaking out of the cookie cutter mold. And you've done that on a few other things. And I do want to talk about one from Disney. And you did it on Mickey's birthday, which is a Laura Croft, mashup of Minnie Mouse and Laura Croft. And I just think it's funny. Again, DJ Croft, legitly, he is a male gender bend version of Laura Croft, and he's like the guy on it. And so, obviously, I was speaking to him about 3 weeks ago, and so this is so topical because this is such a mashup, and it shouldn't exist. Is my point. And I think it's brilliant. I really think it's great. I think it's clever. A lot of guns. Apparently, you might have a gun fetish, so go figure that out.
Yes.
But in all seriousness, beyond kidding around, obviously Lara Croft is very iconic in a lot of ways. On video game
Oh yeah.
stuff, it's probably one of the first female-centric video games ever. It might actually
Mhm.
be the first. And then on top of that, you have Minnie Mouse, which is another massive iconic character, and it's Mickey's 90th birthday on top of that, and that's when all this was happening. So combining a lot of cool stuff into one thing, I think is awesome, and I just think it's a really cool cosplay to talk about.
Yeah, it was kind of like I think that was my first mashup, and I wasn't really sure what I was doing because I did Laura Croft. I've done Laura Croft a couple times, and I've always liked her just because she's just a, badass. And then I had this mini costume, and I thought, well, that would be kind of fun to do, where, got your leg holsters and, in my little short little my mini thing and just put on the ears. And I think I wore that to Long Beach Comic Con, and people, they liked it. They were like, okay, that's really different. But you have like sweet Minnie Mouse. I mean, because Minnie Mouse is just like the sweetest thing. And then you add Laura Croft. And I mean, and I was pretty serious in some of the pictures because, I was thinking Laura Croft, because she's just such a rebel. So, yeah, that one was just kind of fun. That one, I mean, I've kind of experienced in a lot of different cosplays, but I mean, some I only do once. That one I only did once. But some of them I've done several times, just because of the popularity or the time of year or, whatever it was. But yeah, no, that one was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and even to go further on this, because I think this is super interesting, mashups, and we obviously spoke about a bunch. Chucky, Cheshire Cat. We could make an argument somewhat of the Stormtrooper and the entire dress and gown style Stormtrooper to some degree. But and obviously Minnie Mouse, Lara Croft. But what is it that you think? Because we mentioned it before, how matchups have become bigger. What do you think it is about why matchups have become bigger, and what are your rules on dealing with matchups? Because obviously everybody has different lines on what they combine and what they want to combine, and some people just say, "Hey, I want to throw this and that into all of this," and things of that nature. So I'm just curious where that entire process comes and how things come to your head. Because again, never would have thought Laura Croft and Minnie Mouse would go together. Never would have thought Cheshire Cat and Stormtrooper would go together. I could see Chucky and Jango Fett to some degree. To some degree, I could see
Yeah.
that one. I can't really see the other two. It wouldn't. My mind would never go to that place. So I'm just curious, like, what clicks in your head to make it work? Because I find it fascinating.
I mean, I think because it's more acceptable, like I said, to do the mashups and stuff. And you gotta you gotta make sure that you do a mashup that people are gonna understand, that people are gonna get. Um, Clearly, the Cheshire Cat Stormtrooper, people knew exactly what it was, when they saw me. And it was kind of fun because I had all these Alice in Wonderland people, Mad Hatter and Alice, going, "Oh my God, we got to get a picture with you." And I'm like, "Okay, sure." I'm not like totally Cheshire. But, if you put the pieces together right, like my Minnie Mouse and the Laura Croft, the black, all of the black that Laura Croft wears, because mine was original Laura Croft, and it just went perfectly with the Minnie Mouse costume. And I thought, you know what? Let's just do it. So I think what makes me think to put the characters together, because it's two characters that I like. I mean, I love Star Wars. I love, the Stormtrooper. I've done Han Solo too, by the way. I don't know if you saw. I do a female Han Solo. Um, but to add two characters that you love, why not? But I think the importance is to make sure that your pieces of your costume clearly people understand that you are this character and you are this character. Because if you don't, people look at you and they're not going to know what you put together, you know.
Yeah, that happens sometimes in the cosplay world, and it's not good when it happens
Yeah,
when people don't know what a mashup is, or when what the two are supposed to be, and you have to explain it, because that's kind of one
yeah,
of the rules about mashups is that it should be pretty obvious, or it should be
yeah,
obvious enough if you know what you're looking at. You know, if you never saw Chucky, you know it's pretty clear, but you should assume with your Jango Fett that it's a Mandalorian Chucky, position. You don't
yeah,
have to go to the Jango Fett position immediately, but it should definitely be Mandalorian. It should be up in front and center match with Chucky. But I
yes,
digress on that. But I want to leave Marvel because I'm getting sick of Marvel. Star Wars is technically under Marvel at this point. Minnie Mouse is under Marvel, and I do want to talk about DC. And you already mentioned Catwoman, and we're going to get to it because it's a super fascinating story. But I do want to talk about Wonder Woman, Poison Ivy, Mera, and I think you've done a few others as well. And obviously, your Wonder Woman's cool. It's Linda Carter esque, for lack of a better word. And so, what is it like to do these DC characters? Because the three that I just mentioned, obviously, in the last few years, have gotten a lot of attention. Wonder Woman's killing it, and I think Wonder Woman's going to be
yeah.
killing it in about 20 days, from my understanding. And then obviously Mera is killing it in Aquaman, which is arguably the best DC movie so far. And then Poison Ivy is just fun, and especially the stuff with Harley Quinn and all that stuff. And so, what's the story with these three?
So yeah, I mean, Wonder Woman. I think I mean, I remember watching the original Wonder Woman. I think I did that Wonder Woman, Linda Carter, before I did the new Wonder Woman, and I I have the corset. I love the costume, Wonder Woman, and I love what Wonder Woman stands for. I mean, she's powerful. She's a warrior. Um, she's just awesome. So she was my first DC character that I did, Wonder Woman. When I did the Gal Gadot, the new Wonder Woman costume, I think I probably spent more on that costume than I have on any other cosplay because I knew it would be hard for me to build, and I had it custom made to fit me. So it was awesome. It was fun. And then I thought, it'd be really cool to do Poison Ivy. Well, I had never done a wig, something a different color other than my own, and I was very, very hesitant to do redhead. I was very hesitant, but I did, and I loved it. And I ended up doing Poison Ivy first, and then I did a mashup of Poison Bunny. I did Playboy Bunny with Poison Ivy, and I love that one. That one was a lot of fun. And then because I did red hair for Poison Ivy, I thought, let me do Mera. I happen to know that they filmed part of part of that movie down in Cabo San Lucas, and I happened to be down there. I brought my costume, and I had a photographer take pictures of me there on the beach and on the rocks and stuff, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. But and Harley Quinn, I am just dying to do Harley Quinn. I have always wanted to do Harley Quinn because I love her sassiness. She's so sassy. But I'm scared to death to do blonde. I really I really do not look good blonde. But oh man, I want to do Harley Quinn so bad.
So let's talk about this redhead stuff because you also did Jessica Rabbit, and obviously redheads are fascinating, and so I sort of missed it. I think people might have missed it. Did you go the wig route, or did you actually dye your hair red, or just for clarification?
So for Mara, Poison Ivy, Jessica Rabbit, I wore a wig. Yeah, all three times. For Chucky, so Chucky's hair is orange, you know. And by the way, you're right. People love redheads. They love redheads. I get people on my Instagram send me private messages going, Nikki, you just posted another Poison Ivy. I love it. You know, I love redheads. And I'm like, that's awesome. Um, and to be honest, I really don't think I pull off redhead very well at all either. But if you really want to do the character, you know, you got to do it. So, but Chucky, I've done Chucky a couple times. You know, I did female Chucky, and I sprayed my hair orange, only because his hair isn't red. It's kind of red, but you know, and it washes out. But I really don't like wearing wigs and the
So
wig
so
cap.
to so to talk about the wig side, because wigs are a whole different ball game on cosplay, and there's horror stories. There can be expensive. There's ethical components to it, and it's a whole different ball game. And there are cosplayers who say, "Look, I'll build everything, but I'm not going to even touch a wig because styling it, dyeing it, taking care of it, spending money on it, spending money on the
Yeah,
right one, you know, buying a Halloween wig at Target's not going to cut it, you know." And so what was that experience like in getting it and wearing it and figuring it out? Because it's a massive learning curve in many ways, and it can be very expensive, and then even just dealing with everything regarding it, it's complicated, for lack of a better word.
yeah. I mean, I I truly take my hat off to the girls that have nailed this whole wig thing, because I've actually gone up to girls at Comic Cons and I look closely. I'm like, you did an excellent job on this wig, because their placement and everything was absolutely perfect. You know, I did okay. Um, it's not my cup of tea. You know, I have a friend that's really into makeup, and you know, I'll send her a picture of a cosplay that a costume that I've got. You know, she says nothing about the costume, nothing. She focuses on the makeup, and I'm like, okay, it's not just about the makeup, but there's some women that are so good at makeup, and you got women that are good with the wigs too. But my thing is, wigs are like, you know, eyelashes. You know, if you put on strip eyelashes often enough, you're going to get good at it. Same with the wigs. You know, if you invest in a good wig and you've got it nailed down, the wig cap and the pinning and everything, you know, pinning your hair. And that's another thing. You got to pin all your hair underneath that wig cap and then the wig over it. And I mean, I'll tell you right now, it's uncomfortable, and you're just scratching your head all day. It's like, oh my gosh. But but if you truly want to bring out that character, you really have to do it. I did, though, however, do recently do Black Canary, and technically she's blonde, and I said, no, I'm not. I'm not going to put on a blonde wig. Because I actually saw other girls doing it that were dark hair, and I'm like, I'm just going to do Black Canary with dark hair and just call it good.
This is why I don't cosplay. This is why I don't wear wigs. This is why, and when I did cosplay back 10 years ago, I pick characters who have this style of hair purposely, and I avoid those problems for a very good reason. And either by ignorance or intelligence, I'll take the intelligence as a win in my W column right there. But I digress once again. And obviously, Black Canary is fun and all, but I want to talk about what is your signature cosplay. And in many ways, this is Catwoman, and you have a very interesting Catwoman. We spoke about it more up to the top of this interview, and now we're going to talk about it a lot more because there's a lot of shit that's going on with this between you making it and redoing the ears, and there's a video of you whipping, and if you ever hear a whip, of somebody actually
that.
officially whipping, you know, not a person, but just
Yeah.
ground. If you hear that swoosh, you should run. I'm just letting everybody know, run quick, because that can hurt, and I would know. And I'm not going to say how, but I can know. But, and then even going further beyond that, and kidding aside, you also got to present an award to Burt Ward, who, for those who don't know, is Robin from the 1960s Batman show. So, what is the deal with this cosplay and everything that's really happened and it's opened up for you? Because I feel like there's been opportunities that have been granted to you because of this cosplay.
There has, and actually, yeah, the Hollywood show down in LA, they actually wanted to do an interview on me, and they came up here where I lived, and they did an interview on me, and they kind of focused on Catwoman as well. But it's just, I've always been fascinated with her, um, and Catwoman she's strong and she's sexy and she's someone you don't want to mess with. She is like my favorite female villain. And I've probably done four different Catwomans from the original one. I look back at the original one that I did, and I'm like, ooh, yeah, I could have done better than that. And so I have, kind of perfected that. And then when I was asked to present Burt Ward with a jacket at a VIP event at the Hollywood Museum, dressed as Catwoman, I mean, it was so much fun. I'm standing outside, ready to go in with all these VIP people. And, here I am dressed as Catwoman. And because it was strictly for Batman, this whole event was, from the Batman series from 1960s, there was all these people. And so it was nice. All the photo ops and everything that I got. And then I was standing next to Burt Ward and flash, 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 flash. And it was just so much fun. So, I mean, I love going as her. When I put on that mask and those ears, I feel like I'm not even me anymore. And I think that's what I liked about cosplay in general, is because when I become any of these characters, I'm not me. And it's kind of nice to not be me for a while. And you're kind of, especially if you're behind a mask, you're kind of incognito. And I remember one time when I was Catwoman, LA Comic-Con, there was this really good Batman. I mean, his whole suit, and he was just amazing. And I thought, you know what? There's a picture of Julie Newmar laying over Batman, just within inches from his face. And I thought, I want to recapture that. So I asked this guy, I go, can you lay down? And he's like, what? I go, lay down on your back. It'll just take a minute. And I had somebody take a picture, and I just, laid like this. He was like this. And I'm just looking at him, snap the picture. And then I got up, and then he went, and he had his two little kids with him. And I had no idea. I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see your kids. So, but anyways, I got the shot, but he was very nice, very generous. But the person taking the picture, they're going, yeah, he was there with his two kids, but we didn't see him when we took the picture. But anyways, whoops, got to be careful. But he could have said no.
So even to go further, because obviously people take pictures, you get to take fun pictures, you get to do some cool stuff. And how has this been received at cons? Because Catwoman is fascinating, and she could also be very tricky. Where that movie didn't do well, did a lot of damage, for lack of a better word, to be very polite. And nothing against Halle Berry, but that was not one of
I know.
DC's finer moments, to put it bluntly. But Catwoman is also really interesting, especially with what's going on with her and Batman and the entire wedding that just took place in the comics, and that entire issue as a whole. I'm not going to go ruin it, but that issue looked one way on the cover and went a very different way. And so, how has it been received? Because she's a very interesting character right now. And then you have things like Frank Miller's work that just expands upon that. And so I'm just curious how people have reacted to this. there's obviously more of what's in the comics and also somewhat a little bit more cinematic, but I think it's very well done.
Yeah, and I think it depends, like, which Catwoman that you're portraying at that time. You know what I mean? I mean, I really don't see. I mean, personally, I don't see a lot of Halle Berry Catwomans. I just don't. You see a lot of Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman, and then you see the original ones, but and I in confession, I don't follow the comics as much as I should, so I'm not sure what's going on. But Catwoman is always well perceived at every con. Everybody loves Catwoman, and I always try to make it fun. It doesn't matter. I mean, I've got my I see BB-8. I see they're running BB-8 around the floor, and I get my Catwoman whip and I put it around BB-8, and we're gonna do a picture of me choking out BB-8, but he's actually my favorite. I love BB-8, but no, people love Catwoman, and they love I had one guy that follows me. I see him at every con, and he loves to do pictures. He goes, Nikki, let's do a picture. He goes, can you bite your whip? And I'm like, sure, I'll bite my whip. He goes, but you got to put it around me. Okay, I'll put it around you, bite my whip, whatever. But yeah, the video of me doing the whip, that was taken at Emerald City Comic Con, and you put that in slow motion, and it kind of gives it more of a little oomph, in her power. And then I had a Gotham City police car I did a photo shoot in front of, and that was a lot of fun too. So yeah, I mean, I need to follow, see what's going on with her, but I have never gotten any kind of bad anything from Catwoman. I mean, she is just absolutely my favorite, and I think people love her.
Yeah, I think Catwoman in general in the DC universe is very much well received for the most part, and people really enjoy everything that goes on with Catwoman. I don't think Catwoman gets negative press like other characters do in DC. And Catwoman comics and the entire comic world doesn't really attack Catwoman. And it's an interesting read for the most part. I think it's one of those wholesome characters in DC that always does well, and it's always nicely received as well. Um, and obviously, you got a lot of opportunities with Catwoman, and obviously, as we mentioned, you get to present the award to Burt Ward, but you also got to do something kind of cool where you also got to cosplay Robin. And I just have a very interesting question because how do you feel about Robin not wearing pants? Because Burt Ward didn't wear pants and your Robin doesn't wear pants. And there's big debates, much like Superman, trunks or no trunks Superman. These are the questions us comic fans want to know. So I am just curious how you feel about Robin not wearing pants.
You know what? Robin has no business wearing pants because he didn't wear pants in the beginning. I don't know if Burt Ward is like going, really? I got to wear, this. But I mean, Adam West, look what, he wasn't a whole lot different. But because, I love the whole Batman, everything, I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a female Robin and just make it fun. And I actually did that at San Diego Comic-Con, I think 2018. I had so much fun, way more fun than I expected to have with Robin, because you don't see female Robins, right?
But there are two. There are two of them.
There are two?
Yeah, it's Catwoman's apprentice becomes Robin, and then there's Stephanie Brown.
See, I didn't even know that. That's my bad. Oh my gosh, I have to do my homework. Jeez.
There are two Robins, two female Robins, and Stephanie Brown is spoiler. I'm a big Stephanie Brown fan. For those who don't know, I love Stephanie Brown. I think Stephanie Brown is the greatest Robin, and is Batman's favorite Robin of all time by far. But I digress. But continue about female Robin, because people don't do Stephanie Brown, and people don't do Carrie, Catwoman's apprentice at cons. It doesn't happen.
Oh. So yeah, you're tasking me. Now I need to do my homework. No, I definitely will. My whole thought was just doing the Burt Ward, the Robin, and yeah, I had somebody make my cape because, I got the whole thing and I didn't like the cape. I needed a better cape. And so, I had the boots and it was just so much fun. Like I said, San Diego Comic-Con, I ran into a friend of mine who does Batman, and we ended up uh, uh, taking on a Poison Ivy and a Catwoman. And I swear to you, I mean, I'm like, we were there, we could not move because of the photo ops. I'm like, okay, at some point we need to break apart and use the restroom or go eat. And I mean, we were there forever because, we had the whole group there, and it was just so much fun. But people just didn't expect to see a female Robin. At least, a couple years ago, I felt like, okay, I mean, I was the only one that I saw, but it was fun. I liked it.
I like you as pantsless Robin too, but I'm not going to go any further on that point. And I do want to exit out of comics, and I know that I missed a bunch of stuff, and I know that we didn't touch upon the Marvel side of the comics, but I do want to talk about two more cosplays, and one of them is Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, and I know it's not comic book related or anything of that nature, but I think that it's fantastic when people throw back Wizard of Oz stuff, and I think that Wizard of Oz has been around forever, almost 100 years at this point, pretty close to it, and it's very very cool. And the Wizard of Oz as a entity um, is super important for so many reasons, and so many people are still referencing it. And so you have Sweet Little Dorothy, and you have Guns a Blazing Dorothy. Oh man, and I love both of them. I think they're great, and I think it's fascinating. And so, what was it like to go back? Because you don't see a Dorothy cosplay at a convention, and even back 10 years ago, you didn't see a Dorothy cosplay. And I just think it's so interesting when people go retro, and when people go and they cosplay something that isn't comic book related, but is definitely pop culture oriented and has
Yeah.
influenced pop culture before pop culture was even a word.
I have always loved Dorothy Gale. Always loved her. And Judy Garland. So she actually spent a portion of her childhood in my hometown. Um, and where I actually live, and I'll tell you, I live very close to where there's a lot of poppies. And I have a photographer who was willing to meet with me here in the poppies and do a photo shoot with my Dorothy. Um, and I just always felt like I could pull off Dorothy, because of my hair, and I just love the colors that she wears, and the ruby red slippers are just amazing. They're so much fun to wear. So I did the photo shoot in the poppies with Dorothy, and I it's one of my favorite. I think Dorothy is one of my favorite cosplays, only because I feel like her character fits me um most. It really does fit me because I'm, kind of like her a little bit. But in that picture and my Elvira were the ones that got me in Cosplay Alliance magazine last year. They had me as part of one of their cosplayers in their monthly issue, but they liked my Dorothy and my Elvira. And so yeah, I love Dorothy. She's just amazing, and she takes care of little Toto, and she takes
So
care
to
of all
even
those.
jump off of that, because that's Sweet Dorothy. And then where did the guns come from? Because that's a whole different interpretation.
Oh
And I'll be completely honest. So I have a friend who just did a Kickstarter called Cthulhu Invades Oz. and it's a war for Oz, and it's a war over Oz and a bunch of other stuff that's about to happen with Oz. And so,
Wow.
if anybody knows Cthulhu, it's super fascinating, and it's Travis Gibb, and it's a great story. And he was on my show twice, and I was back on a Kickstarter, and Kickstarter's closed to everybody for those who are watching. So if you missed that, you missed out. But super interesting concept. And obviously, Dorothy's not portrayed very well. Dorothy sold out Oz. Spoiler alert, everybody. Dorothy sold out Oz. But I digress. But the idea is that when you have Dorothy, Guns a Blazing, and Fables, which is a comic company done by Vertigo through DC, Dorothy's an assassin. In Zenescope's world, Dorothy is definitely going in a different direction, where you have Dorothy very much warrior-like, and then there's Wicked. So obviously, Guns a Blazing is a very interesting interpretation of Dorothy, and so I like that a lot because it's also modernizing it, and it's not tippy toeing around the issue,
Right.
and I like the monetization elements of it. So where did that all come from, and what is that like to take something done in like I don't even remember when Dorothy was made, 90 years ago, 20s, 1930s era. Like at the start of
30
the silver,
something.
when that was being discussed, moving our currency to a silver standard versus a gold standard. But just context wise. But anyhow, Guns and Dorothy.
So yeah, the Dorothy that I was telling you about was standard Dorothy. So I've done standard Dorothy, just Dorothy Gale herself. But one year I decided to go to an anime convention. Never been, never been. And I have to tell you, I was a fish out of water there. I didn't know what to expect. You got just Sailor Moon and, all these different anime characters. I had no idea. And Dorothy with the guns blazing was kind of like a last minute, you know, let's just strap on these little 9mm toy guns with my Dorothy, and I think I had flying monkey hanging out one side, and I can't remember if I had Tin Man on the other side or something. And it was just kind of a spur of the moment, something fun to do. And believe it or not, I got a lot of people that liked it and was interested in what I had. So yeah, it was just something fun to do.
And I think it's brilliant. I like it a lot. I'm not gonna lie. And I like a lot of your cosplays, to be honest. And then the other one I want to talk about, and the last one I want to talk about, which is also retro, but it's a little more recent, and I'm 27, and I remember, is you did a gender bend of Austin Powers. And that's kind of cool. And when gender bends, and you've done a few other gender bends, but I wanted to really save this question for this, where you did the female version of Austin Powers, where you didn't try to make yourself look like a male or an effeminate, male. You went complete female version of what Austin Powers looked like if it was a female, which is very interesting because gender bends can go one of three ways. Obviously taking a character who's a female, making that character into a male, going making, even if the character's a male, doing the female version of it, or doing more of a feminine male is typically how it goes, or a more masculine female to some degree is the other way it goes as well. So what was that like? Yeah, going retro and doing that entire thing, and obviously you had like a blue almost velvet dress that looked very similar to the suit, and you had like the hair and the glasses and all that stuff, and then you had a few photos that were cool with what looked like mini me in them. So, but what was
Yeah.
that like? Because it's very cool because it's retro, and a lot of people know Austin Powers, and a lot of people, and you're an older cosplayer. I don't think that's a secret. So obviously your audience might be slightly different. Where I'm 27, and I remember Austin Powers. I don't think a 18-year-old might have the same remembrance
No.
of that movie and what it meant in film. And I don't even know if that movie could be made today in film, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know either, but you know, and I tell people, I was invited. Orange County Sci-Fi Club asked me to come speak to their group once, and talk to them about cosplay. And one of the things that I said to them was, cosplay a character that you like, cosplay a character that you connect with, that you love. So Austin Powers, I just thought the movies were hilarious, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go because I like to do different. I like to be different sometimes. So I went to a Comic Con. Like you said, I got the velour velvet blue dress. It was a mini dress,
It's very
and
British. It was
um,
very British.
very British, very British. Yeah, baby. And he wore black shoes. So I wore like black go-go boots to kind of go with the dress. And then I had the female necklace, because he wears, the male necklace, I think. And then I carry around mini me. I would not do the teeth though. I work hard whitening my teeth. I am not going to wear those yellow teeth that he's got, but I did wear the glasses. And that is one character, because if you go as like Wonder Woman, okay, you got your shield and you got your sword. Um, you know, I mean, you can do motion things and you can say things, but same with Cheshire Cat. You can only do so much. Han Solo, you can only. But Austin Powers, people want to hear you say something. It is so much fun. They come up to you and they would be like, "Will you take a picture for like $1 million?" And I would go, "Dr. Evil stole my mojo. I've got to go back to 1969 and get it. Shag now, shag later, baby." And I mean, people just, they just have fun with it. Anybody seen my shag wire? My car. Um, Anyways, it is so much fun. And, you can walk around a little martini glass or whatever. But Austin Powers was so much fun. I would definitely do it again. Yeah, carry around my little mini me. I actually want to make Mini Me's little blue velour suit, because he actually wore it in, I think, number 3. But he was a lot of fun to play. And Elvira is, I mean, I I would not do Elvira. People asked me to do Elvira for so long, and I said no, no, no. I did not want to do Elvira. She was a little more than what I wanted to do, and I finally caved. And I'm like, okay, all right. I have a little bit of some of the attributes that Elvira has, so I'll do Elvira. And so I actually was asked if I could do an 80s cosplay for an 80s party down in Hollywood. And it was a paid gig. They paid really well. And they had all these 80s, people. And I says, do you want me to do Elvira? And they go, okay, can you send a picture? So I built together this whole Elvira, did my hair up, the makeup. Her hair and makeup is crazy, by the way. Did my whole virus, send a picture, and the guy goes, "You are so hired. Please come." And I'm like, okay. I watched like Elvira's Haunted Hills. I watched all these YouTubes of these old clips and everything, because, if you're going to be in character, if you're going to be a cosplay, and especially if you're going to get paid for it, you need to be in character. So I thought, okay, I went to this party, and people, same thing. They come up to you. It's like the Austin Powers thing. They want you to, interact. And, I'm like, "Hey, Elvira, Mistress from the Dark here. Oh, you're cute. Do you want to go to a pumpkin patch and stir up some noise?" "What? No, I'm sorry. I can't. I've got to go. I have a date with Vincent. He says he's worth the price." So, I mean, I don't know if you know Vincent Price, but he's he's also one of the, oldies Halloween kind of icons. But and people just like, oh my god, they love Elvira. But anyway, sorry, I don't know how we got going on this, but Austin Powers, Elvira, they were probably some of the funnest because you get to really be the character with those.
See, I think this is so interesting because this is targeting a very different audience. Because what's happening at cons now is that you have younger people going and you have older people going, and so it's very interesting when you look at a con's guest list. You might see an Elvira or somebody in that camp or a Val Kilmer there for a reason, because there's a lot of people who are older, who are in their 40s, who are now going to this stuff and remember it. And there's a lot of people like me. I'm 27, so I'm kind of in a weird position. And my parents obviously introduced me to a lot of stuff. And I have a lot of friends and friends in certain places that I'll let you know who I know after where we're off the air, I promise, that are very cool, who are very much into 80s things. And so it's very interesting where that's going. And also, a lot of these people who are in their 40s have money at conventions, and that's the
Yep.
king of everything. So I think it's great that you're targeting and that you do Austin Powers and that you did Elvira, because I think that's filling a niche. Because it's great to do, a Naruto or a Powerpuff Girls, but that doesn't target and hit the 40-year-old. And definitely cosplayers. And if you see, you walking around as Austin Powers and you're 40 years old, and even if you're taking your kids or your grandkids, it's like, oh man, that's cool, and it can make somebody's day. I think it's just so
Yeah.
interesting, and I wish more people would do it. I really wish, because I think that it's this idea, because you also mentioned that, you should cosplay a character you love. And I think that's something that also, because cosplay is for everybody. And I think that there's been
Yep.
a massive divide in the community. I think the term professional cosplayer has been extremely toxic because it has created a bar between normal people and then what cosplay is supposed to mean, which is fun. And I think that there's been that divide where if you're not cosplaying and making money, you're not in this crowd. And I just think that you are the antithesis of that, and in a good way. And I think a lot of people on my show, which is something that I've been doing a lot more, is to go down that route versus the professional route. And I think he really hit that niche super well. And I actually love that you brought this up, because I think it's super important that there is representation from the 80s and the 90s, and it's not just the 2005 era and forward. I think that's a big mistake. I mean, it's like, if you ever seen an I Love Lucy cosplay at a con, it's super cool. And that's...
I did. So I have a picture with I Love Lucy and I Dream of Jeannie, and I'm right in the middle of them as Elvira. And it is one of my most favorite pictures ever. But when I see those icons like you from back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, there's a lot of people that go to these cons that know these characters, and because it's different, I got to meet Elvira last year when I was dressed as her. I was at Midsummer Scream. It's a Halloween in the summertime event. It's so much fun, and you know how when you meet a celebrity, you're in line and okay, picture next. So I went up to her, and there was a few Elviras dressed up there, and she goes, "Oh," and she's really nice, super sweet. I love Cassandra. And what was really fun is after they took the picture of her and I, the picture that I'll pick up later, they pulled me aside. They go, "Can you come over here?" And I'm like, "Okay." And they go, "Can we take a picture of just you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they go, "You have a really good Elvira." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you so much." But that was really fun. And then, okay, so have one more. Have you seen my Energizer Bunny?
I have seen that, and I like that one too.
that one was like totally fun, and another one that was really well perceived because everybody knows, the commercial. And I've done, Max Black from Two Broke Girls from TV, because it's not just about movies. You can do anything. So.
Well, I think we're going to stop talking about cosplays right there because I don't think I can top anything else that we speak about. And I know I missed a bunch, and I know
It's
that there's so
okay.
many that I've missed, but I do want to talk about a very interesting topic. And it's a little complicated, but obviously, COVID-19 has messed up a boatload of stuff in the con world. It's messed up a boatload of stuff in the world in general. And obviously, I don't know if you know what con crud is, but for those who don't, basically, if somebody has something or a group of people have something at a con, it will spread through and everybody will get it, or a good majority of people. So if somebody has the flu at a con, you could bet that 20 to 30% of the people that Monday morning are gonna get the flu. You could put money on it, and you would be
Yep.
pretty much rich if with that entire thing. And that's always existed in cons before COVID, and now that COVID sort of proven and has proven the concept. Well, you know what? Cons were never really safe, and so I'm just curious on how you view everything that's happened, and in particular with the con world, and where do you think it's going? Because obviously there is pre-COVID cons. There's COVID right now, which is the virtual space, which is not working, and then there's going to be after COVID, and AC after COVID, and there's PC pre-COVID. And so I'm just curious as a cosplayer, because I view it as a panelist, and I view it very differently than a lot of cosplayers view it. I view it as more of a business and everything that's engaging in that way. But I'm just curious how you view it and what you think needs to change and where it's going to be situated from your experiences.
Um, I think the COVID in general is going to change how we do things a lot in the future, period. Even, not cons, just everything. But when it comes to the cons, it's going to be kind of sad because I can see them breaking people up in groups, not allowing as many people, in the panels, or in the vendor areas, and and I think that people taking pictures with other people are going to be reserved, doing that. And you know and I mean, I honestly don't see, I mean,
Do you
sad.
think I'll ask the question this way? Do you think that the intimacy of the con is going to change? Because that's what I'm feeling is that so there's two sides. There's the celebrity aspect and the business aspect where celebrities might not want to take a picture with people, and then that hurts their pockets. And that's a whole different discussion, and it's a whole debate, and I don't want to dive into that too much. But also, there's a bunch of people, and you go to a con, and you seem like a nice person that if somebody approaches, hey, oh man, can I take a picture with you, like a quick selfie? Like you're pretty cool with that, and all of a sudden, that's a very intimate moment between people and
Hmm.
fans, and then obviously, if you're dressed as Elvira and somebody's a big Elvira fan, and they're like, oh man, I got this really cool picture with this cosplayer who's dressed as this awesome Elvira, or you're Boba Fett, really cool thing, and so, and now that COVID happened, I think people are going to be more reserved, and I think, and rightfully so, in many ways. Not to mention con rules and all sorts of crazy stuff, and also how do you control that? It's one of those things where it's like, you know, how can if I spend $90 on a comic ticket, which is what some of these cons are, if not more
Yeah.
money, and then you tell me I can't take a picture with somebody, I'm not going to be having a good experience, and I'm going to be pissed,
Yeah.
for lack of a better word, and rightfully so on my end. And I get the safety component, but obviously you can expect me to do something, and then also cons are chaos in many regards. It's controlled chaos, it's happy chaos, but do you feel like that's more of an accurate description of what's going to happen, or do you feel that it's going somewhere else?
I think you're spot on that. I think that a lot of people are probably going to not welcome, the photos. You know, I mean, if you're Catwoman and you got a good Batman there, you're gonna, take your whip, put it around them, and pretend like you're choking them, whatever. But how do you do that if you're not, if they don't allow you to, or if you're afraid to get sick? I mean, I can see a lot of the younger people. I mean, this is just me, throwing this out there, not really caring. I can see a lot of the younger people go, oh, because I have a niece and, she's like your age. And she's just like, oh, yeah, whatever. She thinks that she's, not that you are, but she thinks that she's invincible to this whole thing. But, like you said, you have actors, you have photographers, you have people in Artist Alley that are truly not going to want to have people close by them. But being a cosplayer, I mean, it's all about the pictures and stuff. I just did a photo shoot a couple of weeks ago with a photographer, but I mean, we're far. There's quite a bit of distance between the two of us. But when you have fans that go, oh my gosh, Nikki, hey, whatever, can we, do a picture, and they want to come up, I mean, that's pretty close. So I mean, I honestly think that cons are probably going to have a problem with a lot of people buying tickets in general, just going while this is going on. And I think it's going to be like that for a while, unfortunately, before it completely goes away.
So I'll give a barometer on this, where I live in DC, and then I'm obviously moving out of DC for a variety of reasons, and COVID's one of them. But there's a con called AwesomeCon. AwesomeCon canceled their entire convention in 2020. Then they moved it back, and then they canceled. Then they were scheduled for 2021, and they were going to go April, or I think like last week in March or first week in April. And what wound up happening is that they then moved it back to August, with that before any of this new spike was out there, and we're going to start seeing that. I don't know if Emerald City Comic Con has announced anything. I'm pretty sure that it's not going to happen in March when they do it. I'm pretty sure their Pop Funko and merchandise will happen, because that's not people per se. But I do think that is a barometer, and it's a pretty clear barometer to me that that's about to happen. It's also clear to me that the entire virtual space is about to increase massively, where in March nobody was doing any of this, and now everybody's doing something like this. And I know this because I have legitly a 80% reduction in traffic in the last 9 months. So I am very well aware that on a business level, this virtual world is increasing dramatically. It was probably 50x'd itself conservatively. I'm willing to put money on that number. And I think that the virtual cons are not a bad idea. I just think that they are extremely poorly run, because any of these companies have no idea what to do. And they try to figure it out, and they don't know what to do, because they're asking all the wrong people, and they have all the wrong people in their companies running that, which is, and so I think it's going to be very much that nothing's going to run until 2022 June. That's what I really think. And I also think that it's much more celebrity oriented, and I think it's the celebrities, because the way the business works right now, for those who are interested, the celebrities are what dictates everything, because celebrities have guarantees, and then what winds up happening is that every autograph they sell goes against their guarantee, and if their guarantee is 10,000, they sell 15, they make 5 plus that 10, so they get their hotel room more or less taken care of. Now, if they don't want to come, or they don't feel that they're going to make their money or get enough money over their top, their guarantee is going to go up, and the con has to eat the fat. The con needs the celebrity to promote it, and then the celebrity's like, I don't want to come, and now they limit attendance. It becomes a gigantic clusterfuck. And I've written this article, and I've explained it, and nobody's read the article. And I explained this like 4 years ago, and nobody's read the article. which is crazy because I explain how everything works and where your ticket goes to. So I think that that's what's going to be the determination is not going to be the fans' position. It's going to be the fans and the celebrities are going to
Yeah,
determine when cons come back. It's
yeah,
not a matter of is COVID safe anymore. It's a matter of do celebrities and what do fans who have money. The celebrities want money and fans have money. It's where does
yep.
this go to this? It's going to determine everything else because and I'll be honest, if this working right now, COVID's high spike, cons will operate. By definition. By definition, it's not a matter of legality. I'm pretty certain on that, but I digress. It's a hill I'm willing to die on, but neither here nor
I,
there. So we're going to table that right there because I do want to give
no,
you an
I think
opportunity to promote yourself, which is what this entire thing was supposed to be. So
right.
where can people find you? Where can people follow you? Where can people check out your Instagram? Because I think you are massively underrated on Instagram. And I think you should have 10 times the following you have at the moment. I think it's massively a problem. And I'm surprised when I was looking at you and your Instagram, you got less than 8,000 followers on Instagram. And I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with people and everything that's going on? So, where can people
You
find you? Where
know,
can people check you out? Where can people support you? And what is the best way how to support you in what you're doing and all that fun stuff?
um, they can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram name is Cuz I'm Nikki, but it's COS underscore IM underscore Nikki, NIKKI. And then I also have a Facebook page, same thing, Cuz I'm Nikki. And, I don't ask for much. I would love to have more followers. You know, I do print sales every now and then, and it's pretty well received, and I get a fair amount of orders, and it's really fun. But I just love people interacting with me. So if I can get some more followers and people just interacting, I just love it because I love the faithful followers that I have now. I've had the same followers ever since I've been doing it, and it's great. I feel like I have a connection with them. But yeah, please follow me, and I love it. People give me ideas on what to do for my next cosplay, and I'm very open. So
Well, I think we're going to table it at that. And before I table everything, I am definitely going to encourage everybody to go please follow because I'm Nikki on Instagram is probably the best place to follow because you can see all the photos and all the stuff. You got like almost 700 of them. So keep people busy for a little bit. And obviously, you could engage in Instagram. So I definitely recommend people go do that. And I don't think you'll be disappointed for those who are watching this and check it out later and watch the replay. Don't think you're going to be disappointed. And then, secondly, and I've been saying it with everybody that I've been interviewing, is that you got to support indie creators. Right now, more than ever, indie creators are sort of, in desperate need of support. They're in desperate need of support all the time. But if you like what you see, you have to support it. And obviously, when Nikki and Cause Nikki has a sale on a print sale, and if you got some extra money, you should throw it at it. But more importantly than even money, it's definitely following. It's definitely engaging. It's definitely, on Instagram, it's a heart. Commenting is a big thing. You're even just saying, hey, great cosplay, it goes a long way. And I don't know if Instagram has a share button, but I know that you can comment, you can like, and obviously following is the big one. And that stuff goes a massive long way, especially on Instagram pages. And if, you get 2,000
yep,
followers and they'll like a post, obviously it gets more and more into their feed and into other people's feeds. And so it's super important. And same thing on Facebook. And Facebook, for those who are unaware, liking is great, hearting is even better. So if you're more of a Facebook person and you like that stuff, definitely giving hearts out because that's also super important right now. And that actually is more important than liking because it actually affects Facebook's algorithm more favorably.
and
So
shares, and I get a lot
definitely,
of people sharing. Sharing helps a lot too.
so definitely support indie, support people who are doing this. Obviously throw money is obviously the ideal because money goes a long way, but there's also no excuse because Instagram is free, Facebook is free, and following
Yep,
doesn't cost anybody any money. And legitly, if you just like because on Nikki's, images that she puts up, and let's say you like 4 a week, that goes a long way, and it's going to take you legitimately 5 seconds, legitly. So there's no excuse anymore, and that's just it. So we're gonna wrap it on that, and I would like to thank you for being on. Yeah, the audio we made it through. It's not perfect, but we toughed it out right there. I'm gonna go do my investigation on why this was the way it was, but we made it through. So I will apologize to everybody who has a hard time listening to this ahead of time. It's on me and not on my guest. So I'll leave it at that, and thank you for being on.
Thank you so much for the conversation. I really enjoyed it.